about commemorating the victory in that war, in the Chinese People's War of Resistance against Japanese aggression, as well as the World Anti-Fascist War. And now the leaders are arriving at that expansive viewing platform up on the Tiananmen rostrum.
Some of the veterans of the War of Resistance were given their own viewing spots on top of the Tiananmen rostrum. Crowds are welcoming China's top leader, as well as international dignitaries. We are seeing veterans sitting there, and President Xi Jinping and international dignitaries are shaking hands with a 99-year-old veteran, 100-year-old veteran from the 8th Route Army, 94-year-old veteran from the 8th Route Army, 102-year-old veteran from the new 8th Route Army, and from South China Guerrilla Force, 100-year-old veteran from the Kuomintang.
Shalom. All praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushua, Bahashim Chakodash. Double honor to the apostles of GMS to give us his truth and all his purity. And salutations to all you occupying pushing this word throughout the four corners of the earth. This lesson is going into how the world is turning against Esau Edom, the so-called white man. And in a video in the beginning, you can see how over there in China, they're hosting different countries. You got North Korea, Russia, Iran, and many other countries right now visiting China, and America wasn't invited. And, you know, from a worldly perspective, you could see how China is coming up, you know, how they're coming up next. Everybody wants to do business with China, thinking that they're going to be the next global superpower. But the scriptures say, let's get Psalm 68. Because these heathens, they think they're going to basically downplay prophecy. Here it is. The scriptures say that Esau will be the end of the world and Jacob will be the beginning of the world to come. But these heathens somehow think they got a chance. They think they got next up in power, which is why you see these heathens coming together, you know, trying to have their own payment system and eventually their own currency using the BRICS. You know, they think that they're going to be the next global superpower. And you had the president of China, Xi Jinping, a couple of months ago. He made a statement. I forgot exactly how he said it, but he basically said that history is going to show how foolish America is or something like that. And basically something to the effect of eventually because of everything that America's doing under Donald Trump, that eventually China is going to take their spot, you know. Basically, America creating their own demise. I forgot exactly how he said it, but basically shows you that he thinks he's next up in global rulership, you know? So this is Psalms, let's see, 68, verse 16. It says, "Why leap ye high hills?" The hills represents governments. When you read the scriptures, governments, nations are often referred to as mountains or hills. So Esau, Edom, the scriptures speak about Babylon being a great mountain or something like that, you know. America is the peak of all the mountains. America is, you know, the top of all nations. This is why you have the United Nations here in New York City, you know, and all nations come here to the United Nations and all of that because, you know, Esau is at the head of all these nations, right? That shows that America and the so-called white man are in power, right? So it says, "Why leap ye high hills?" So Esau is a great mountain. America is a great mountain. The hills are the other nations that are not as strong as America. And the high hills represents the top among the other nations, which are China, Russia, Iran, and so on and so forth, you know? So the Lord said, "Why leap ye?" And that's what they're doing. Them trying to establish the BRICS, them trying to bypass America, you know, overtake the dollar, having a BRICS payment system, and eventually their currency. That's them leaping, you know, thinking they're going to come up. It says, "This is the hill which the Most High desireth to dwell in." The hill that the Most High desireth to dwell in is the children of Israel. All right. It says, "Yea, the Lord will dwell in it forever." So Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, the God of the universe, and his son, they're only dealing with the children of Israel. The Most High is going to dwell with Israel forever. So that proves that no other nation can be saved. No other nation is promised salvation because the Lord is only going to dwell amongst Israel forever, right? And it says the chariots of the Most High, 20,000, even thousands of angels. The Lord Yahushua is among them as in Sinai in the holy place. That's right. So the Most High has unlimited army, 20,000, even thousands of angels. You do the math. 20,000 times 1,000 is 20 million. So the Lord, hey man, the Most High is far out. The scriptures talk about how there's innumerable multitude of angels, man. There's not even a number that could count the amount of angels that exist. You can't say it's a zillion or trillion angels. It's way more than that, right? Only the Most High knoweth. Just like how you can't count the stars and the sands of the sea, that's how the angels are. And that's how Israel is going to be in the kingdom of heaven. The scriptures talk about that, you know. A little one is going to become 1,000 and a small one a strong nation. So in the kingdom of heaven, Israel is going to be innumerable as well, just like the angels, because Israel are angels trapped in bodies, right? In the everlasting chains of darkness unto the judgment of the great day, which is very, very, very near, right? The judgment of the great day is the missiles, World War III, nuclear destruction of America, man, right? So it says the Lord Yahushua is among them as in Sinai in the holy place. That's right, Yahushua. He's among them as in Sinai. So Yahushua, he was the one that delivered us out of Egypt. It wasn't the Most High himself that came down. The Most High, he never comes down and gets shit done himself. He always sends messengers and ambassador, which the ambassador is Yahushua. The messengers are the angels. So the Most High, he uses Yahushua and the angels to get shit done. And back in Egypt, it was Yahushua that was on that chariot delivering the children of Israel. And to prove it, verse 18, it says, thou hast ascended on high, thou hast led captivity captive. Who is that? Yahushua, right? Proverbs 30, who have ascended up into heaven and descended, right? It says, what is his son? What is his name and what is his son's name, if you can tell? So that's speaking about Yahushua, right? When you read Acts, the first chapter, it tells you how Yahushua was taken up and a cloud received them out of the disciples' sight. So this is all speaking about Yahushua. It says, thou hast ascended on high, thou hast led captivity captive. Captivity is sin. This is why Yahushua in John the 8th chapter, he said that if the Son shall make you free, you're going to be free indeed. And how basically you're the servants of sin. So Yahushua is going to lead captivity captive, which is sin. Basically taking away our stony hearts, taking away Israel from sinning. That's what the Lord Yahushua is going to do when he returns. It says, that has received gifts from men. The gifts is the kingdom of heaven. Yea, for the rebellious also. The rebellious is the 2/3. So that shows that the 2/3, they're going to be back in the kingdom of heaven. They're going to be reincarnated and inherit the blessings of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They're not going to go into hell. They're not going to be destroyed forever, man. That's a pagan, wayward doctrine, man. IUIC teaches that 2/3 are basically going to go to hell. They're going to be destroyed forever. That's not scriptural, man. Right here, that cuts all that. It says, yea, for the rebellious also. The rebellious is the 2/3, man. The ones that was in the wilderness. And the ones that still bucking up to this day, man. They're going to receive gifts as well. This is why Daniel, the 12th chapter, it speaks about some are going to awake to everlasting life and some to everlasting shame and contempt. That's the 2/3, the rebellious. It says that the Lord power might dwell among them. That's right. So Yahushua is going to dwell among us, man. And not the Most High, because the Most High, he doesn't come down himself once again. He uses his ambassador, which is Yahushua, right? Okay, that's it on that. Now let's go to the book of Obadiah. This is back in Obadiah, verse 7. It says, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee. So the men of thy confederacy have brought thee to the border. Now let's see what confederacy is going into the word. The Hebrew word there is Barayath. Yep. And it says covenant, alliance, pledge, between men, treaty, alliance, league, men to men, constitution, ordinance. So this is all going into basically an agreement, a covenant, a contract, which is, the United Nations, the countries that's part of the UN that have agreed to give up their kingdom to the beast, that allowed for the C-19 epidemic, that allowed for their populations to get jabbed up. They're all in bed with each other, man. Right? Even though China, Russia, and all of them, they're coming up against America, but they're pawns of the elites as well. Even though in their minds, they might be sincere and looking out for their people and wanting better for their people and breaking away from, the West, they're still working for the elites because the elites, they control both sides of every war. This is why the BRICS, this is why they spoke on having their own digital currency. Why? Because they're all in agreement with the beast, even though they're fighting against it. That's how the elites operate, man. Right? So all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. Because at one point, China was cool with America, and Russia, even though they've always had beef with America, at one point, they had some form of understanding and agreement. They had different treaties that they had with each other. But, as of recent, they had to pull out because of what Trump and Biden have done. The INF treaty, which I think banned for intermediate missiles. Russia just pulled out of that, right? And they're pulling out of many treaties that they have with America. So the Lord said, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. So that's going into what? War. They brought you to the border. They're drawing you out, right? They're drawing you out to the Middle East, to Eastern Europe, to Taiwan, stretching out, stretching your army thin, right? These nations, they see America's weakness, man. It says, the men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. Yeah, so the men that were at peace with thee because of Trump. Trump been putting tariffs on American allies. Canada, Mexico, European countries, just putting tariffs on them for no reason. So they're like, you know what? I bet. Behind the scenes, they're making deals with other countries, America's enemies, making deals with China and Russia, right? That's what they're doing. So it says, they that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. So pretty much you're trapped, right? You're ensnared. And this meeting that just happened in China is a proof of that. Verse 8, shall I not in that day, saith the Lord Yahweh Shemashah, even destroy the wise men out of Edom and understanding out of them out of Esau? And thy mighty men, O seamen, shall be dismayed to the end that every one of them out of Esau may be cut off by slaughter. So every last one of you so-called white people, you're going to be cut off. And this is going to be after the 1,000 year of slavery, man. Right? You're going to be cut off by slaughter. Slaughter is not a peaceful thing. Right? It's not sweet. Slaughter means just that, man. Death, bloodshed, gore, right? Baby screaming. This is what's going to happen to Esau, man. After the 1,000 year of captivity, you're going to be exterminated. The only species to ever be wiped out by the Heavenly Father, man. All right? That's the curse of Esau, man. This is why on Genesis, speaking to Esau back then, when he was Cain, the Lord said, you're cursed above all cattle and above every beast of the field. No other creature has been promised to be utterly annihilated by the Most High. Only Esau, Edom, man. That shows you how much hatred the Most High has for you so-called white people, man. This is Isaiah chapter 14, verse... Matter of fact, I'm going to start at 1. This is Isaiah 14:1. For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel. So this is future prophecy. How can you get other nations in there? How can you get the Gentiles in there, according to you Christians? Because they believe that the Gentiles are non-Israelites. Well, how do you explain this? For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel. So we know that the Gentiles in the New Testament are Israelites. The Israelites that follow customs of other nations, customs of the Gentiles. That's why they were called Gentiles, right? And the Lord said he's still going to have mercy on them, on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, right? And set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And the strangers are Israelite foreigners, Israelites that look like other nations, right? They're going to be joined with the body of the elect, the 144,000, the 1/3, right? It's going to be, many Israelites looking like other nations, looking like Chinese, looking like so-called white people, looking like Arabs, right? That's why the Lord told 2/3 that he's going to provoke them to jealousy by another nation. The other nation, they're Israelites, but they look like other nations. So the Lord said he's going to provoke them to jealousy because now you got Israelites, that don't accept Israelite foreigners like ISUPK, turning down, Jakes that look like so-called white people, guess what? When the missiles are coming down and Yahweh Shah returns and they see, members of the elect that look like other nations, they're going to be jealous, especially since most of them ain't going to get picked up, right? Because we could say that, man, majority of these camps are now part of the elect just based on the doctrines that they teach, right? So they're going to be looking up, seeing Jake, they look like so-called white people, they look like Chinese going up into the chariots, and they're going to feel some type of way. And then boom, the missile's going to hit, right? It says, verse 2, it says, and the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids. And they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. So that's Esau, Edom, man. They're our oppressors. They're the ones that have us captive, the so-called white man. So the Lord said, we're going to possess you for servants and handmaids. That means what? Slavery, captivity, man. This is what's coming to all you nations. Psalms 2 and 8, Revelation 2:25 and 26 speaks about how we're going to inherit you nations and rule you over with a rod of iron, man. Right? So that's payback. It says, and it shall come to pass in the day that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow and from thy fear and from the hard bondage wherein thou was made to serve, that thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, how have the oppressors ceased? The golden city ceased. The Lord hath broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. Yeah, that's Esau, Edom, man. The so-called white man. Scriptures say that the earth is given into the hands of the wicked. And according to Malachi, the first chapter, Esau, Edom is the wicked. So the Lord said he's going to break down the staff of the wicked. That means what? Their power, their rulership. No more American hegemony, man. Once the Lord take out America, ain't going to be no more white supremacy, man. Europe is going to be done too. They're going to get hit with missiles, man. Right? The hegemony y'all have now, it ain't going to be so. The golden city is going to cease. The golden city is America. According to Revelation, the 18th chapter, Jeremiah 50, Jeremiah 51, right? It's many scriptures going into America being likened into a golden city, right? But it's going to cease. And we're seeing that already. We see all the signs of the city, golden city being ceased. The job losses, the inflation, the economy collapse. All of this is going to lead to the downfall of America, man. Verse 5, the Lord hath broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke. He that ruled the nations in anger is persecuted and none hindereth. That's the so-called white man. Persecuted Israel, man. Right? And when you go into the word persecute and prosecute, they're synonymous. Who's the ones getting prosecuted in the court system and being wrongfully committed? Our people, man. So-called blacks and Hispanics. Our people make up 70% of exonerations of crimes, right? Shows you how they just be locking our people up for no reason, no evidence, no nothing. Just got them locked up and being slaves in the prison system, man. So I'm gonna read it again. It says, he who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke. He that ruled the nations in anger is persecuted and none hindereth. Yeah, because Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, he's constantly oppressing the world, man. Dropping bombs on people, oppressing them economically with their interest, the central bank, with the food, the pollution and all of that, man. So the Lord said they're going to be persecuted and none is going to hinder. Nobody's going to stop it, man. Ain't going to be no human rights activists, the United Nations coming and taking up for Esau, man. The ICC, the International Criminal Court, charging brothers, Israelites, charging Yahweh Shah for crimes against humanity. Ain't going to be none of that, man. Once we get the so-called white man under our feet, that's it, man. It says the whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth in the singing. So when the so-called white man goes down, man, the whole earth is going to rejoice, man. Like finally, the earth is going to have a break, right? No more tilling the land nonstop, not giving the earth time to rest, to recover, Hey, man, that's like constantly popping a woman nonstop, man. Not giving her no break. Just tearing her shit up. That's what Esau is doing to the earth, man. Nonstop just fucking planting, polluting the earth with his shit. Nestle and other companies polluting the oceans and having child slave labor and all of that shit. Right? Ain't gonna be none of that, man. Right now, the whole earth is in mourning. Everybody is complaining about their situation. Why? Because the wicked is in rulership. The scriptures say when the wicked are in authority, the people mourn. And that proves that the so-called white man is the wicked, right? It says, verse 8, yea, the fir trees rejoice at thee, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since thou wert laid down, no feller has come up against us. So once you go down, ain't gonna be no more deforestation. Because deforestation happens because of the so-called white man, because of capitalism. They gotta cut down trees to plant certain crops to make profit, right? They gotta cut down trees to have certain roads, to do this, to plant fact, to do this, to do that, right? Meanwhile, destroying the whole earth, man. Well, guess what? Once the kingdom of heaven is established, even the trees are going to rejoice. The trees are going to be able to communicate with us, telling us, man, yo, the water, man, this devil was killing me, right? We're going to have conversation with trees, man. Solomon did that, right? So it says, hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. And that's what we see. Trump doing all of this, he's crashing out because hell from beneath is moved for him and his people. To meet thee at thy coming, it stirreth up the dead for thee, even all the chief ones of the earth. And that's what we see. You know, the BRICS, all these nations having different alliances with each other. Those are the chief ones of the earth. They're stirred up against Esau, Edom, Lucifer. This whole chapter is going on Lucifer, man, which Lucifer means light bearer. Lucifer today is the so-called white man, more specifically the elites of the so-called white man, the Illuminati. That's why they call themselves that. Illuminati means enlightened ones. So they know the truth. They know the Bible. They know the scriptures. They know all of this, man. Right? It says, all they shall speak and say unto thee, thou also become as weak as we, or thou become like unto us. Yeah, so these nations, they're saying that America don't got it like that. You know? Man, what the hell we got to fear, man? These motherfuckers is weak. That's their mindset right now. You know? America talking about their low on stockpile of missiles because they done gave it up to Ukraine and Israel and they can't replace them for years. All these nations, they're seeing all of this, man. You know, they see America's weakness, man. Right? So that's what they're saying. You become like unto us? Oh, shit. We're stronger than them niggas, man. It says, thy pomp is brought down to the grave and the noise of thy vows. The worm is spread under thee and the worms cover thee, which is all going into what? Corruption. This society is corrupt. This financial system is corrupt, right? And now it's biting the so-called white man back in the ass, man. You know, they had established this dollar as the global currency. You know, used it as the reserve. You know, to trade on a worldwide scale, on a global scale. Well, guess what? These nations, they're all rejecting that dollar now, man. Right? So. It says the worm is spread under thee and the worms cover thee. Yeah, so all that money, all these riches you got, you know, the Industrial Revolution was only possible because of what happened to the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, man. The genocide, the slaughter, the theft, the rape, all of that. Verse 12, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? And that's all speaking about the elites. Right? It says, how thou cut down to the ground was this weaken the nations. And how do they weaken the nations? By the way of their economy. You know, you read, you go into, Confessions of an Economic Hitman. John Perkins, he explains how he was tasked with basically offering these countries loans with high interest. And if they wouldn't accept it, they would send in the jackals. They would send in the troops to take them down. And we've seen that. Gaddafi and many other leaders, they got demonized and taken down in the name of so-called democracy, you know, and they weaken their countries. Look at Libya now, you know, war torn. Look at Afghanistan now. Look at Iraq now. Wherever the so-called white man steps foot, it gets destroyed, man. You know, they get weakened. It says, verse 13, for thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of the Most High. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. And that's what the so-called white man has done. He ascended into heaven. He's at his peak right now, right? I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. That's the Israelites, man, right? The congregation in the sides of the north in America, man. The mount of the congregation is the 12 tribes of Israel. And the sides of the north is North America. So Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, has established his power structure, his rulership by stepping on the Israelites, man. By making us his footstool, right? He stepped over us, man. But guess what? That is coming to an end, man. It says, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. And that's the so-called white man's mindset. He has a godlike complex. He thinks he's better than the Most High. That's why when you watch the speeches from the World Economic Forum, they're boasting against the Heavenly Father, man. Talking about why do we need God for? We don't need God. You know, how the new gods of the earth are going to be the ones that control the data and AI. This is the type of things that they're saying, man. So it says, yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. And that's what we see. The so-called white man is coming down to hell. At one point, they were above us. They were outclassing us and looking down on us. But now the average so-called white man is in the same predicament as the so-called black, Hispanic, and Native American, man. And the scriptures say that the Lord would do that. He would put the curses that he put on us towards our enemies. And we're starting to see that. Right? And that's why the so-called white man is crashing out. You know? You see all the racists all coming out the woodwork. KKK is bolder than ever before. You know? Because they see that it's their end. They see that they're being brought to hell. That their society's crumbling. It says, they that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms? They're going to look in the kingdom, these other nations, while they're in slavery with the so-called white man, they're going to look at this devil very carefully, like, yo, this was him the whole time? They're going to look at Netanyahu like, yo, this was this damn devil, that was the Edomite the whole time? You know? That made the earth to tremble, that shook kingdoms. How did they do that? By the way of their bombs, dropping bombs on people. And also by the way of their weather weapons. You know, the HARP system that can create earthquakes, right? It says that made the world as a wilderness and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of his prisoners. And that's what's going to happen very soon. The so-called white man through World War III is going to make the world a wilderness. You know, the missiles are going to wipe out America and other parts of the earth, man. The world is going back into the Stone Age after these missiles hit. Right? It says, all the kings of the nations, even all of them, lie in glory, everyone in his own house. Yeah, because in the kingdom of heaven, after 1,000 years, the so-called white man, or not the so-called white man, the other nations, they're going back into their lands. You know? They're going to be under the structure of our governments. Right? But they won't be totally destroyed. Only Esau, Edom will be totally destroyed. That's why it says, verse 19, but thou wilt cast out of thy grave like an abominable branch, and as a raiment of those that are slain, thrust through with a sword that go down to the stones of the pit, as a carcass trodden under feet. Thou shalt not be joined with them in burial. Burial represents what? Rest. That's why they say rest in peace. But guess what? These nations, they're going to rest in peace after the 1,000 years. Now they're going to, have easier lives and be happy. You know, the kingdom of heaven is going to be 100 times better than this kingdom for these nations, man. Right? But it says Esau is going to be cast out like an abominable branch. After the 1,000 years, you're going to be annihilated, man. Ain't going to be no giving you your land back or none of that, man. Right? It says, verse 20, thou shalt not be joined with them in burial, because thou hast destroyed thy land and slain thy people. And that's what Esau's done. Destroyed his land, polluted the land with all these chemicals and, chemtrails or whatever, man. You destroyed the land, right? And slain thy people. Force flag attacks. You want to have a depopulation agenda. This is why you won't inherit the earth. This is why you're going to be wiped out, right? It's in you to be the devil, man. It's in you to be the wicked, man. You can never do right. It says, the seed of evildoers shall never be renowned. It says, prepare slaughter for his children, for the iniquity of their fathers. Oh, that wasn't me. I didn't do this. That's what they like to say, right? For the Lord said, prepare slaughter for his children, for the iniquity of their fathers. And that proves reincarnation, because the scriptures say that the son shall not be punished for the sins of the father, nor the father for the sins of the son. But right here it says, prepare slaughter for the children, for the iniquity of the fathers, which shows that those fathers are back in the reincarnation. Them same devils that enslaved us, that slaughtered the natives, they're back here today, man. Part of ICE, part of the U.S. military, part of the government, Trump's cabinet, right? The Lord said, prepare slaughter for them, man, that they do not rise nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. For I will rise up against them, saith the Lord, Yahweh Shemashah, power of hosts, and cut off from Babylon the name and remnant and son and nephew, saith the Lord. So, hey, man, once the Lord is done with this place, ain't going to be no survivors, man. Ain't going to be no bunkers where people, survive the missiles, survive the destruction, come out, after a couple months, after a couple years, just pop out. Like you see in certain shows, Fallout, right? Where they show you there was nuclear destruction, but some people survive. Ain't gonna be none of that, man. No son, no nephew, saith the Lord. No remnant. So that means nobody's gonna dwell on these soils after the Lord is done with it. Just like how the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, Zeboim, and the other cities. That's the same thing the Lord is gonna do to America, man. It's never gonna be inhabited. All right? And that's because of the missiles, man. The missiles gonna wipe everything out. And the radiation is gonna stay here for unlimited amount of time, man. Because even after 70, 80 years, you still have radiation over there in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, man. Right? So how much more for, when 200 million warheads pelt America off the face of the earth, man? America is gonna be no man's land in the kingdom. There's gonna be a big pit, a giant desert, a big crater on the side of the earth, man. Right? It says, I will also make it a possession for the bittern and pools of water, and I will sweep it with the besom of destruction, saith the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahshua of hosts. So the Lord is going to sweep America with the besom of destruction, man. The missiles. That's what's coming, man. This is why you see all this tension happening. Trump making all these moves is going to lead to the destruction of this place. So with that, I'm going to close out and give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem HaKadosh. Double honor to the apostles of GMS to give us his truth, and salutations to all y'all can push in this word.